Webinar 24 on inclusive education in Europe and Central Asia, inclusive education in practice. So the webinar is organized by the KIX EMAP Hub. Our hub is part of KIX. KIX is short for Knowledge Innovation Exchange, which is the program of the Global Partnership for Education, developed and implemented with the International Development Research Center in Canada. KIX is one of GPE's mechanisms that supports national governments and ministries of education in the shared mission to strengthen education systems. KIX provides opportunities to GPE partner countries to conduct applied research, as well as to engage in knowledge exchange, sharing and learning on education system priorities. Our EMAP Hub, which is hosted by NORAC, the Global Education Center in Geneva, works with 36 countries in Europe, Middle East and North Africa, Asia and Pacific. Our hub aims to connect research, policy and practice in the EMAP region to promote the use of locally relevant research evidence that can answer to policy planning and education practice needs in GPE partner countries. Our webinar today is part of this wider mission. This webinar focuses on the Europe and Central Asia sub-region, where we work with the following GPE partner countries: Albania, Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, Moldova, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. It was because of demands from KIX EMAP national teams and other key national stakeholders that the hub is working in this region on exploring greater knowledge exchange and learning on the topic of equity and inclusion. Among these requests, the hub is finalizing a specific activity, our rapid customized country support activity on inclusive education, in which national experts and institutions from Kyrgyzstan, Georgia, Moldova, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan share, exchange, and learn on progress and challenges with the implementation of inclusive education in their contexts. As Veronica was saying, today's webinar is a second of a two-part series, following our webinar earlier this month that focused on global initiatives in this thematic area in the ECA region. Today is the moment to dive deeper and learn more about country-level experiences, where we will have two main roundtables looking at the importance of stakeholder collaboration for successful inclusive education, and also we'll look at inclusive classroom experiences. Before I hand over to Julia Levine, KIX EMAP Knowledge Lead for Europe and Central Asia, so that she can walk us through today's program, I'd like to share a thank you note to country-level partners that agreed to support this event. I asked Veronica to please share the slides while I mention the partners from 6 different countries. So we have from Georgia, Cooperation for Democratic Development; from Kyrgyzstan, Association for Education Development in Kyrgyzstan, Center for Development and Protection of Vulnerable Population Groups; Asia Foundation of Central Asia; Hand in Hand Public Association of Parents of Children with Autism; Scholar Call Public Association; and Ukum Kalet Public Charity Funds. From Mongolia, 2 organizations supported our webinar: Adina Equal Opportunity NGO and the Association of Parents with Differently Able Children. In Tajikistan, we have Association of Persons with Disabilities, the Association of Parents of Children with Disabilities, and also the National Union of People with Disabilities of Tajikistan. In Ukraine, we have the support of the Association of Innovative and Digital Education, the Institute for Digitalization of Education of the National Academy of Educational Science of Ukraine, Olena Vendernikova Private Schools Network, Superhero School, and the State Scientific Institution, Institute of Education Analytics. Finally, in Uzbekistan, we have the support of Mentor Hub and NGO Sharovit Plus. I will invite during today's event for everyone to participate actively, sharing their comments and questions in the chat at any moment. There will be specific moments in our webinar today to address and to have open discussion and exchange. With this, let's move forward, and it's my pleasure to hand over to Julia. Julia, please.
Thank you, Jose Luis. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second part of the webinar on inclusive education in Europe and Central Asia. My name is Julia Levin. I'm the KIX EMAP Sub Knowledge Lead on Europe and Central Asia. It's wonderful to welcome all of you and to see all the different stakeholders gathered here. We have representatives from civil society, educational institutions, government, and international organizations. And it's wonderful to see everyone coming together to enhance and to advance inclusive education in the region. Just 2 weeks ago, we had the first part of this webinar series. We had the pleasure to welcome representatives from the Global Partnership of Education, Rana Price. She shared insight about the GPE's approach for system transformation. She also emphasized the role of civil society for advancing inclusive education, specifically the Global Partnerships for Education initiative, Education Out Loud. We also had Lana Yoko from the Network of Education Policy Centers, who shared insights from the Global Education Monitoring Report from 2021 from Europe and Central Asia. And also she mentioned that just recently, I think 2 weeks ago, the new Global Education Monitoring Report was published with the focus on school leadership for inclusive education, also with the focus, among others, on Europe and Central Asia. And finally, we had also Yekaterina Dunaeva, who led an activity on a KIX EMAP activity on inclusive education, where in the context of the rapid customized country support, 5 countries came together, shared their experiences, shared successful practices and policy developments on inclusive education. We have also the pleasure that we just published the comparative report earlier this year. So please, we are happy to if you share this resources and find it useful. And today, also maybe the main message we had during the first part of the webinar session is that inclusive education is not a solitary endeavor. To make inclusive education happen, we need everyone on board. It's a team sport. Everyone needs to be included. Schools, parents, NGOs, government, of course. So today we are delighted to welcome representatives from our countries, from all these different groups. And I welcome today Anara Nadirbekova, Director of the Eurasian Foundation of Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, Yekaterina Degbuadze, Principal of Eastern Partnership European School and former Deputy of Ministry of Education, Georgia, Nasimjon Davlatsoza from Ministry of Education Center for Analysis and Coordination, Tajikistan, Antonia Lee, Chairperson of Solar Coal Public Association, Kyrgyzstan, Asadullah Zhirkindoyev, Head of National Association of Disabled People in Tajikistan, Ludmila Malkochi, Executive Director of Keystone Moldova and Regional Director for Central and Eastern Europe of Keystone Human Services International, Chulung Sishait, Head of Inclusive Education Department of the General Authority of Education in Mongolia, Nelia Koretska from the Ministry of Education and Science, Ukraine, Abdurraf Abduganiev, Lead Specialist of the Ministry of Preschool and School Education, Uzbekistan, Fatma Serenjori, Manager of the Inclusive Kindergarten in Mongolia, Halina Musyenko, Head of the Educational Center at the Superhero School, Ukraine, and finally Yelena Volkova, Westminster International University, Uzbekistan. And of course, many, many more. I know many stakeholders from the region are presented here. Welcome, everyone. And we're looking very much to today's discussion. We will have 2 roundtables with 2 rounds of questions. And I encourage everyone to participate actively, to use the chat function to post any questions and comments. And I will start now with the first round of discussions, where so the first round of discussion will focus on successful stakeholder collaboration, what needs to be in place to have everyone on board. And the second part, which will be moderated by Jose Luis, will be focused more on inclusive education in practice. And not to lose time, I will now open the first round table discussion. I invite on stakeholder collaboration. I invite Anara Nadirbekova, Yekaterina Degbadze, and Nassim John Davlatzoda to join us. And we will discuss and share experiences on key factors that contribute to successful collaboration among stakeholders, such as Ministry of Education, parental organizations, civil society. And I have two guiding questions for this roundtable. What strategies have proven effective in building partnerships among stakeholders? And how have collaboration and stakeholder engagement influenced the development of policies? And also, you might be able to show successful partnerships or example of successful partnership, which could be a model for others. So I hand over to Anara. Yeah, 5 minutes, and I will let you know just also to keep on time when we are coming to the end of the 5 minutes. Anara, please, I give you the floor. Anara?
Hello, dear colleagues, dear presentations, and Yulia, I'm very happy to welcome all of you here today. For me, it's a great honor to be a part of this first session because this is a fundamental issue. Having a dialogue between different stakeholders in order to develop inclusive education. We're talking about creating a platform for discussion. When we began working in this area to promote inclusive education, we created a national platform of organizations, of civil society organizations, who work in the area of inclusive education. For us, this was the starting point. And beyond this, what we see is that we need the support, the information support from parents, and this dialogue platform included also an association of parents. We gave great importance to making sure that information is accessible and transparent from the side of the Ministry of Education. We work together with various NGOs, and what we see is that today, thanks to partnership and collaboration between different sides, where each side has their own interests and capabilities. And through the establishment of this dialogue platform, we were able to achieve some consensus in this area. What I would like to say is that in this area, it's very important to let parents know that their voice is critically important, that they are heard, and together with their participation, we can achieve great progress in developing inclusive education. Today, we have behind us a successful experience where we have over 160 schools have begun applying a more open policy of collaboration with parents. This is a great success. I would also like to point out that at the policy level, it's important to work together with the parents' associations. The ministries need to be more open as well. And currently, we have a National Council on Disabled Issues. We have inclusive education at the ministry level as an important theme. This work has been done for many years. The ministry treats us as equals now due to the expertise that we've accumulated together with parents' associations. The Ministry of Education of Kyrgyzstan, which I represent, is now conducting a more open policy at the ministry level, especially in the area of inclusive education. Besides this, in order to develop inclusive policy, it's important to develop partnerships with universities and research centers. They help to open the public's eyes to important achievements and map out the area. Thanks to research that has been conducted by leading authoritative organizations, we were able to help the ministry develop a correct and effective strategy for the future. Currently, we are very proud of the fact that the president's community is working together with the Ministry of Education of Kyrgyzstan, and we see that these institutions are working quite well. We see that we have the proper documents, proper processes in place, and many other products and accomplishments that we can be proud of. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anara, for your contribution and what you talked about, the importance of working together with the science and universities. This is really important, and this is based, or this generates important data and data that can be used for developing inclusive education. Thank you very much. I'll pass on the floor now.
Thank you, Juliana, for introducing me. I would like to express, first of all, my gratitude for the invitation to participate as a speaker to the webinar and have a chance to share experience or Georgian experience to the participants. At this moment, as you mentioned, our webinar is about the among the partnership of stakeholders and stakeholders engagement influence to different influence in developing and implementing the inclusive practice in educational setting. Today I will share experience of my own country regarding the what impacts did both external and internal stakeholders have on the advancement of inclusive education in Georgia. External stakeholders like parents, organizations, disability organizations have played, I can say, the crucial role in emphasizing the need of inclusive education. Mostly I will underline these parent organization. For example, in 2000s, began the fight of protecting the children's educational right and integrating them in the public school to be part of the society and have a chance to get education with other students as well. That was the period of time when only special schools provided education for special education needs students. Internal stakeholders in that period of time made the observation for this from distance, but over time, of course, they recognize the vital importance of inclusive education. For example, I quite well remember that the period of time when the term inclusive education was unfamiliar for us. We didn't know, even understand of this phrase definition. With international financial and intellectual contribution, Georgia developed this inclusive education. So these initiatives establish inclusive education as the mandatory form of supporting the special education needs. It was under the law of general education. So to enhance the effectiveness of this system, the special teachers was also recognized and became the part of this educational system. They are in the same level of as are the general teachers or subject teachers in the educational system. it should be noted that this at the educational level, collaboration between parental education and educational institution played, as I mentioned, a crucial role in reforming the policy and to advance inclusive education. Though their contribution, as I mentioned, it was in 2000s, but all this period of time, this organization, not only the parental organization, but also the disability organization are very active, and their contribution is very important. And also their monitoring process, how the system is going on, it's going forward, or there exists some kind of challenges around. So I also recognize another inspired success stories to collaborate between the local and international organizations focused on disability advocacy. The effort to struggle, they successful pursued it in Georgia Parliament and government to ratify the convention. And I would like to, I'm really proud, and maybe many other countries that for example, in Georgia in 2014, the parliament made a ratification of the Convention on the Right of People with Disability. And for example, after 15 years, when the government also with the struggling of non-formal, non-governmental organization and disability organization, Georgia developed a new law, or Georgian law of supporting the people with disability. I think this example effectively illustrates the significance of impact to effective collaboration about stakeholders at various levels, so internal, external, and micro and micro levels. So today I expect inclusive education has been extended. Not we are working not only with special needs or disabilities education, but it accommodates it spreads to generally in the whole educational system. We are now focusing on transforming the entire education system to ensure accessibility for all. This involves not only has infrastructure, and of course we're talking about the curriculum, we're talking about the assessment system, our methodologies, educational resources and technology, and their role in educational process, teacher training and their capacity, and professional development and different methodologies which needs to be implemented. So based on these statistics at this moment today, I can
I think we lost Katerina.
Say that during this period students in am I back now?
Yeah, you were breaking, but I think now it's working. It works again.
Okay, I will continue. So I wanted to mention that nowadays I would like to share the statistic information about the special education in student. Nowadays, I can say that 14,000 students are involved in public schools. So it's a huge number, and they need the support. They need to different kind of services and methodologies, and as I mentioned about, it needs different kind of approaches, infrastructures, and different system. And also what is important that today we have more than 1,000 special teachers also employed in public schools. I wish to transfer the general education system into truly inclusive environment for all students. So this is, I think, another level or step for the Georgia educational system. It's no longer just a system, as I mentioned, special education needs, but it needs to spread to all students. Now, we also recognize that a significant number of students, particularly street children, will be a good example when we are talking not only, for example, disabilities, students' education, but generally the system need to holistically see all students existed in our country, and the street students or children experience and example it's a good some kind of case of discussion. So I would like to share that the street students are either
because of the time, please.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
I will very briefly. I will be very briefly. So I would mention that we are working not always disability students or special education needs, but we are working holistically around this kind of support of all students. The Ministry of and cooperation. I wanted to mention cooperation with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health and Social Cares. It's very crucial because there are different services exist within the ministries which cannot see and contributed or touch or involve the Ministry of Education. These children are getting services which is not involved or informed the Ministry of Education. This is also very important. And the last part, I want to witness the successful collaboration again in the past with NGOs and international organizations plays a vital role to fostering cooperation between the ministries. This partnership have great enhanced capacity, motivation, and provide both intellectual and financial support. I think these key examples I wanted to spread and share more information, but unfortunately we don't have a chance. And again, thank you so much for inviting and sharing Georgian experience with you.
Yeah, thank you, Katerine. Thank you, everyone. Anara. So I think this event is also here so we can connect with each other to know like what kind of initiatives are taking place in the different countries, and also to build on a network among all participating countries. We have a third speaker, Nasim Davlatzoda, but who connected, but I see someone else at his computer. Maybe hello, welcome. Can we let Nasim's replacement to unmute herself?
Hi, how are you, dear
Hello.
colleagues? He's not here. Davlatzoda Nasim. He come back about 5 minutes or 10. Can we wait for him?
Okay, so you're not the replacement for him, just to checking in. Okay, then if he's not here, I would suggest that we move on to the second round of questions, and then we have an overall discussion at the end. I see already Sergey posted a question to the chat. We will have some time afterwards to discuss this question with everyone. We are collecting them. So thank you, everyone. And I would like to invite now our next presenters to share. Let me check. It will be, I'm inviting next Asadullo Zhikirkodev, Head of National Association of Disabled People, Tajikistan, Antonia Lee, Chairperson of the Shola Kol Public Association, Kyrgyzstan, and Ludmila Markochi, Executive Director of Keystone Moldova. Please join us for the second round of discussions. And we would like to expand on the topics we just heard, on the importance of community and family engagement in supporting inclusive education. We just heard it from Georgia, also the building up on the one hand of social services, but at the other hand also to have a comprehensive approach to inclusive education, to have its in assessment, in teaching and learning materials, teacher preparation. So this comprehensive approach, maybe you would like also to share, especially what good practices have you implemented to involve local communities and families in educational process? And how do you ensure that diverse perspectives are included in discussions about inclusive education? And I hand over first to Antonia Lee. Antonia, please, I give you the floor.
Good day, dear participants of this webinar. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Could you please run the video? It's just 3 seconds. Because I want you to submerge into the atmosphere of one region close to Issyk-Kul Lake. So we cannot hear the audio. So this is the region where we live and work. That's a rural area, and we created an early intervention model, which is step number 1 towards inclusive society. So this is the area we live in. The village of Bakambaeva is located on the southern coast of the beautiful lake of Issyk-Kul. The word unique is very characteristic for this village because people here, ordinary people, make miracles here. They are ordinary, but at the same time, they are unique. So now I will start my presentation actually. So the practice of our activities is mostly student oriented. We do home visits. We visit the families with disabled children once or twice a week. These are poor, vulnerable families with many children. Can you please share my presentation? Oh, you are already sharing it. Thank you. Great. So we have about 10 people working with our organization, and every specialist actually monitors 10 children. During the home visits, we try to develop functional skills and normalize the everyday life of the child and the family. We have 2 male specialists in early intervention, and you can see some photos. These are the home visits and some activities to develop some motor skills. So we are using as evidence-based approach in our work. This is actually the biopsychosocial model for children with limited abilities in terms of health, in terms of mental health. So we do actually some background check and investigation to find out the environment in the family, the nutritional habits, some personal habits, personal characteristics, and can you please show the next slide? So what are the assessments that we have already run? So we have already we usually run about 5 rounds of assessments before we start working with a child. So we assess the structural functions to identify potential health-related problems. Also, we do some some lab tests, and one more innovative approach that we're using in our work is the focus placed on parents as key members of our team, because we cannot work with a child unless we involve the parents. Otherwise, we would have zero results. As you can see from these photos, the parents are really our key partners, and we have involved the mothers and fathers, and in 38% of the mothers, we have achieved the lower depression status. Also, we involve fathers, and here are some photos showing the fathers involved in some activities conducted by early intervention experts, male experts. We actually teach the fathers to dedicate more time for spending the time with their kids. And so one more component. This is actually food security and food safety. So what do we do to improve food security? Of course, it is clear that without normal, adequate nutrition, we cannot speak about early intervention and normal development, physical development of the child. When we had activities for the fathers, we actually involved them in creating handmade dryers, fruit dryers, and could you please wrap up because we need to continue, Antonia? Yes, and these are the results of our project. You can see them on this slide. So please move on. So during the pandemic, we used IT and ICT. We created a hotline for the parents of the children, and that actually helped them not feel so isolated during that period. And this last photo shows a special celebration activity where we also involve the fathers of the children. And again, we have created a self-help group for the parents to exchange opinions and experience. And here are two more photos of the kids we have worked with. Thank you so much, Antonia. Thank you for sharing the practices, especially early development inclusive practices, because a lot is to be done in this field. Thank you so much for your great work. And now I would suggest moving on to Asadullah from Tajikistan. Asadullah, you can unmute yourself now. Please switch on your camera. So over to you, sunny Tajikistan. Thank you, colleagues. Hello, colleagues, friends. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very privileged to participate in such a large-scale event. So today in Tajikistan, I think we have an inclusion day, because previously in the morning I attended another meeting also dedicated to inclusive education and outcomes of this education over the recent 10 years. So 10 years ago, inclusion boiled down to just the word included in some documents. But today we can see the real work done and first achievements, and I would like to share how the civil society was involved in inclusive education in Tajikistan. Dear colleagues, dear participants, today we are discussing inclusive education and the important role played by the parent and civil society organization. Education is key for social integration and providing equal access for disabled people to education is very important. For November 2025, Tajikistan had 7,800 officially registered disabled people, and almost half of these are children with disabilities. So these are not just figures. These figures state to the fact that we need a systemic approach for their further integration into the society. So about 15 years ago, we started working on laws and regulations for inclusive education. In 2015, we adopted the first concept for inclusive education that laid the basis for systemic change. In 2018, the president of Tajikistan signed the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. In 2021, the government approved the national program of action for implementing this convention. The same year, the government adopted a program called Accessible Environment, and recently the government adopted a new concept for inclusive education up to 2045, which actually confirms that the country has a long-term strategy for inclusive education. Today in Tajikistan, parents of people with disabilities may choose the format of education for their children, which is a great achievement. According to the legislation and regulations, there are the following formats of education: education in mainstream schools, in specialized institutions, homeschooling, or distance education. So I can share my own example. You know, I actually was born back in the Soviet Union, and I graduated from a specialized education institution. And I can tell you that those specialized schools are still there, and I visit these schools from time to time, and I can see that the schools are more open now than they used to be in the Soviet era, and they have fewer children with physical disabilities there now. Which is due to the fact that the parents today can send such children to mainstream schools as well. But again, I mean children with physical disabilities here, but of course there are also children with mental disabilities, and they are facing more problems because for these children we do not have the adequate inclusion yet, but hopefully we will have in the future. And I want also to say a couple of words about parent organization. I really adore the parents of children with disabilities, and I think our major achievement today is the active involvement of the parent organizations. Actually, it started 15 years ago or 20 years ago. The parent organizations have become a very strong force for promoting the issue of disability and inclusive education. And parent associations play a very important role in inclusive education, ensuring the rights of children with disabilities and providing support to their families. They primarily are involved in advocacy, in awareness raising, interaction with the governmental structures and international organizations, developing adaptive educational materials, trainings for the special teachers, engaging all the associations in experience sharing, providing consultations and psychological support to families. So, we can see a lot of daycare centers created by parent organizations, such as parent associations, specifically IRODA, and such organizations are involved in creating centers not only for education or developing skills, but these centers also target further employment of the disabled people. IRODA and some other organizations working with autistic children, they have created a couple of cafeterias and some other organizations that employ disabled people and enable them to get a certain income. Some time ago, a law on social entrepreneurship was adopted, and recently the president signed a new tax code that envisages certain tax privileges for those organizations, 50% of whose personnel is people with disabilities. So this is a great achievement of the parent associations, and it actually contributed a lot to the result that we have now. Could you please wrap up, Asadullah? Yes, so in conclusion, I would like to say that inclusive education is only possible with through interaction of the government, NGOs, parent associations, and international partners, and creating a system for education for all children, regardless of their abilities, is key for the development of the country. And all the children are equal, they have equal rights, and they all deserve education. That's why I would call us all to join forces in order to have better results and achievements. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And let's move on over to Ludmila from Moldova. Moldova has also gone a long path towards inclusive education. So over to you, Ludmila.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting us to this very interesting panel, because I do think that exchange of experiences are very important for all of us, especially in inclusive education. I would like just to say a little bit about Keystone Moldova experience in inclusive education of children with severe disabilities. First of all, I'd like to say that Keystone Moldova started to work on inclusive education of children with severe disabilities in 2009, when we started the deinstitutionalization of those children from big residential institutions here in Moldova. During that period of time, there were no legal framework for inclusive education of children with disabilities, but we had an opportunities because it started the closure of the boarding schools in the Republic of Moldova, and many typical children were moved to from boarding schools to mainstream schools. And within this context, it was easier to convince public authorities and directors of schools to permit children with disabilities to go to schools. Community schools and parents were not prepared for inclusion of their children in schools. It was huge discrimination of disability in the country, low level of knowledge of teachers on how to approach and teach children with disabilities, and limited trust of parents in the abilities of their children to go to schools. We worked at several levels. First of all, we worked at national level with advocacy for policy change, policy development in inclusive education. We worked at community level for integration or inclusion of children with severe disabilities in school. At national level, it was established the National Coordination Mechanism on Inclusive Education. It was a very good mechanism, and I will advise everybody to have this mechanism, because in this mechanism we had the representatives of all the ministries involved in inclusive education and inclusion of children with disabilities, as well as representatives of non-governmental organizations. And practically within this national mechanism, we had the possibility to influence the national policies. Keystone was involved in development of inclusive education program, Code on Inclusive Education, the Chapter 1, Code on Education, Chapter 1, Inclusive Education, methodologies for inclusive education, support services, standards and regulation. And just 1 year ago, we were involved in development of packages of support services for of educational support services for children with very severe disabilities, like sensorial disabilities, intellectual disabilities, children with autism, and so on. I would like to say that at community level, it was also a very big challenge for us to work. And practically, I will start with some figures because during this period of time, we piloted inclusive education in 22 schools and 15 kindergartens, and we tried to select the schools and kindergartens in the same communities in order to make transition, from preschool level to school level. And we supported the development of 66 educational support services in those communities. I mean, support teachers, centers for inclusive education, multidisciplinary commissions, and so on and so on. How we worked with communities, because this is our question for today. First of all, from the very beginning, we involved community stakeholders in all activities. We developed the community support groups for children with disabilities that were in residential institutions, because these community support groups, they covered parents, neighbors, teachers, mayoralty representatives, and children, and developed through these support groups person-centered plans for each child on its inclusion. Inclusive education was part of these person-centered plans, and particularly participants in planning sessions were involved also in the implementation of those plans. Teachers and managers of schools or kindergartens involved in person-centered planning sessions, they became the supporters of our children in schools and kindergartens. And also it influenced, change of public opinion and diminished the discrimination of those kids in communities. And I do think that this approach is very good, to cover both, like support children in schools and also diminish the discrimination at community level. In each school, we supported the development of multidisciplinary team. They were capacitated on how to support teachers, on how to develop the inclusive education plans, and we developed also resource centers for inclusive education. It was a huge capacity building programs for managers of schools, for teachers, for parents, for typical children also, because typical children need to understand the diversity. And from these perspectives, we even integrated the curriculum in schools on diversity in schools. It was curriculum for typical children. And also, in addition to that, we develop a social safety forums to prevent, fight discrimination in each school, separately with children and parents. And we conducted these social safety forums practically in more than 150 schools. And these social safety forums helped us also to diminish the discrimination in schools of teachers and of typical children. By now, what we have in Moldova, I would like to say that 95% of children are mainstreamed with special educational needs and disabilities are mainstreamed in regular schools. However, we still have challenges, and practically because of very limited financial resources, limited budgets allocated for inclusive education. In our country, we have only 2% of the inclusive education fund that are allocated to remunerate the support teaching staff mainly. We still have very limited regulatory framework and methodologies for kindergarten inclusive education and for vocational school inclusive education. The infrastructure is insufficiently accommodated to the needs of children with disabilities, physical and sensorial disabilities. We have a large number of children per unit of support teacher, and my advice will be very carefully, because sometimes in the initial stage, one child will need one-to-one support from the teacher. This support will decrease in time, yes, but this is also a problem. I would like in the end to share with you a small video on inclusive education in kindergarten. I'm not sure that we have time for that, but I think that this video will be shared through the chat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ludmila. Let me check. Yes, unfortunately, we don't have time to share videos, but we will share all the resources in the chat, but also later on, so everyone has access to it. We will now wrap up the roundtable number 1 with a final discussion. For this purpose, I hand over to invite again all the speakers to come together from the first roundtable, and I hand over to Jose Luis. We had some questions in the chat. I would also like to encourage everyone, please post your questions in the chat. We are looking forward to a lively discussion. And now, Jose Luis, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Julia. And it was wonderful first set of roundtable discussions. We have received several comments and questions. I'll try to address them by speaker. Ektarin, I'll start by you. You received two specific questions. One from Sergei Lundar, who is first deputy director on this for scientific work in Ukraine from the Institute of Education Analytics, and he's also our KIX EMAP national coordinator. And the question from Sergei is, what digital technologies are used for statistics and organization of inclusive education in Georgia? This is the first question. And then there is a second question to you as well, Ektarina, which is focusing on what conditions have been created in the school and classroom for implementing inclusion besides specially trained teachers, and how many students are in class and how many teachers work in the classroom. So a more general question here. And I ask you, Ektarina, if you can respond to this in, let's try to do it in 5 minutes. Ektarina, please.
Okay, thank you. I found this both of questions, and thank you, everyone. I think I need to talk about about the existing Georgia inclusive education system in Georgia at the school level. I will start with the first question about the technical support, how we will provide. As previously was mentioned, that we also had these daycare centers, we had these special schools, and for example, specifically for schools for blind or deaf students. So these students were in the special schools. And nowadays, when we are talking about the inclusive system, to transfer the system as an inclusive, we are suggesting, for example, the student to be involved in public school. In mainstream school, it was also mentioned, different terminologies, as I found, we're talking. To provide the technical support, for example, my experience is to support the blind student. It's some kind of CCTVs we provide for them. Also, we started to develop electronic books, and it's quite easy with listening these textbooks. Also, we are providing braillers as well. So we have example how it is integrated in public schools as well. Also, in the technical support we provided, for example, autistic students, they are provided to develop different skills and communication skills by using this technical support. Also, the dyslexia and reading part, when we support to develop the reading skills by using some kind of LMS systems or different programs. So I cannot say that we are quite rich and we have a big experience, but this is the process. We have done the great job of integrated inclusive education, but nowadays I can say that we need to make a huge job to work about the quality of inclusive education. I need this technical support, technological support, how to be integrated in the educational system. It's very important. We are not rich with this experience, and we need also to develop. And generally, how it is supported, the inclusive education at the class level, at the school and class level, I can say that first of all, exists the student who need to identify at the school level, and teacher is responsible, or special teacher, or any staff inside the school, these needs of the student, and after to start to support the student to be as a part of this society. And another one is when the student is coming with the realistic some kind of condition to have a disability. So we have the multidisciplinary team. This is the team that consists with the psychologists, specialists, occupation therapists, and different specialists who make by the test assessing the student and identify and give the status of special education need. Then it starts when the teacher is responsible in different kind of approach to use this is to observing again and make the individual education plan for the student. And the teacher is not alone. Teacher is, sorry?
Yes, no, Katarina, just, it's all very important, but I'll just ask you to wrap up because we still have 2 other rounds.
Okay, I will briefly finalize
So
I want to say the teacher is not alone. We have as I mentioned in my speech, the special teacher, we have the student need the individual assistant, and also exist the special funds and financial model to support inclusive education and student with special education needs. So it's thank you so much for this question, and if you have to me to spread this information, please write, and I'm ready to share my Georgian experience regarding inclusive education. Thank you.
thank you very much, Katarina. This is the start of a conversation, so we'll make sure that these connections are being made and you can continue those connections as well. So now I'm going to read 2 questions that were directly to Asadulu. The first question came from Janil Bongombayeva. Asadul, if you could share some more insights on how to replicate models for social entrepreneurship and inclusive job creation. That's the first question, Asadul. Then there is a second question from Rajabali, from the parental organization, where Rajabali is thanking you for the assessment of parental organizations. He wants to add that our parental organizations were able to work at the academic level to influence, lobby for the opening of new departments for the training of speech therapists, teachers of the deaf, and at the Kuliyev State University. This is more of a comment if you want to address that. There is one more question that I want to pose to more openly, that is a more open question, but Asadul, if you can take 5 minutes to address this comment and this question, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the questions. I also am grateful to our colleague for his work, and thank you for your assessment. As for some know-how regarding entrepreneurship, I would like to give a concrete example, if I may. An organization that I represent has 40 representative offices around Tajikistan and brings together over about 30,000 people with disabilities. And it's important for our organization to be financially stable. And for this, we need some income sources. Of course, grants aren't always sufficient, and they're not very sustainable. But we also have government support. Unfortunately, organizations such as ours do not receive government funding. So in 2015, considering the development of new technologies, digitization, and software progress, there's an example that we can talk about is outsourcing services. So basically, children with disabilities, after graduating from school, whether or not they graduate from regular schools or specialized schools, they train in programming, they train as financial specialists and so forth. And due to this, we decided to create a company that will provide accounting services for the private sector. Initially, we did this for NGOs, and then we implemented these services. We implemented international accounting standards and began working with the 1S accounting system. And with the foundation of the Dushanbe Disabled Foundation, we provide accounting services to both the commercial and the non-commercial sector. And this organization, I want to say, has managed to employ, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 20 young people with disabilities who provide both online and offline services. And part of the income is transferred to the NGO, the civil society organization, which fulfills its activities under statute to support children with disabilities. So we see both employment being provided. We see that a specialist is not just providing some type of services, but working according to their specialization. They're gaining real high demand professional services, and not just simple hand services such as tailoring. So a professional, a finance specialist or an accountant is providing services in their professional area. This is one of the examples that I could share today. And of course, parental associations also have a lot of experience employing individuals with disabilities and entrepreneurship. As for the law on entrepreneurial activity, this law provides the opportunity for organizations such as ours to enjoy tax preferences and other privileges from the state to compete, to be competitive in the market. So thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Asadul. There is one more question here that is very interesting, but links more with the next roundtable. And it's the linking to what Ekterin was also talking about, the quality of inclusive education. And when you talk about quality, when you talk about classroom practices, we will give the floor also to Ludmila, because the question was directed to her, in the next roundtable, so we can have a longer roundtable at the end of the session. And now I asked the support of Veronica to start mobilizing the roundtable speakers, and I thank the first roundtable speakers' contributions, and we will invite you to join the larger roundtable at the end. So now it's my pleasure to invite for the second roundtable that will look at inclusive classroom experiences. So we have our first speaker, Chun-Lung, head of Inclusive Education Department of the General Authority for Education in Mongolia. We have as well Nelia Koretska, head of Inclusive Education Department of the Ministry of Education of Ukraine, and Abdurov, lead specialist at the Department for Coordinating Inclusive Education and Caring School Activities of the Ministry of Preschool and School Education. So while we wait for them to appear on the screen, let me give a little bit an overview about this roundtable. The idea of this roundtable is that we'll look at inclusive practices in classrooms, and we'll learn from the sharing of experiences and examples of policies that were targeting inclusive practices implemented in educational settings. So I'm seeing the first one of our speakers, so thank you for joining us. And I ask all the other speakers to please turn the video so that we can have everyone with the camera on. Okay, there's just one more speaker. So as we had in the first roundtable, there are a couple of guiding questions that I will start to read. So thank you for joining. The first question is, what successful policies or initiatives have been implemented that have effectively promoted inclusivity? So we are looking at success cases here. There's a second guiding question that we want to have in this roundtable. What role do teacher training and professional development programs play in creating inclusive classroom environments, and how can we better equip educators with the skills and resources needed to meet the varied needs of their students. So let's start the roundtable, and I'll start by giving the floor to Chunun. Please, if you could kickstart with addressing one of the two guiding questions. Let's try to keep it really
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate into this webinar. Do you see me?
Yes, we can see the slides. Yeah, we can see the slides.
Thank you. My presentation is to cover earlier 2023 we started this inclusive education. That was the general education laws was amended, and it is already second academic year we are implementing this law, new law update. So I would like to what is the coordination or regulation effective in Mongolia, and what is our success story. You could see my content of my presentation. The first one is inclusive education, theory and methodological approach. And that was the training for theory and methodology. Second is digital platform where modules and teaching materials have been placed online. That inclusive education, when we started the new law, what was the most important was that our teaching staff didn't understand what does it mean inclusive education. So we started training them about this inclusive education. Then the first round of the training was public sector officers. We did the provided capacity building training to prepare trainers of trainees. A series of trainings have happened, and our officers and professionals and teachers, even from local areas, we came, and at the regional level, we did training sessions, and it was a good practice, and also to understand our teachers, how they perceive this inclusive education concept. So what was the lessons learned from there? Our officers, professionals, officers, when they become trainers of trainees, and they taught those subjects and direct teachers on the grassroots by district and by region and by provinces. And our officers trained the theoretical approach, and special education teachers delivered content of special need children's educating and inclusion of them into classroom activities. And when we at the grassroots worked, especially primary teachers, series of trainings, Ofs province, kindergarten, Pagma, director of the Pagma, actually is here, and she will introduce the lessons learned and best practices. The methodological training, these who participated to this series of trainings, Stakeholders have been engaged to actually build up a common understanding, common concept on inclusive education. This was the kind of turning point, and it was a very much important step What was the outcome of these trainings? When we did some monitoring on outcomes of the trainings, series of trainings, and this inclusive education, when we delivered this knowledge and concept, but the visuals, explaining or presenting with visuals, they equipped with the methodology that would be presenting visuals to, and also we tested the exam, access them with tests. And of course, about its 30% increase of the concept of the inclusive education, because they could understand when we showed them visuals, they could define and distinguish what was the wrong or what was the good approach in the inclusive education.
Tulum, we are about 5 minutes. Hello, Tulum. We are now near to our one more minute, please. Yeah, I'm saying that we are over 5 minutes.
What we do is that we did training monitoring, and we actually follow up monitoring on the institutions, schools, and kindergartens. And it was for us as a public officers was given us lots of expertise and practice, because what kind of methodology approaches they do use and what challenges do they face, and our policy officers actually noted and could fine tune in a second round, and we could actually offer some supports. So these training sessions, inclusion of the special education, for example, 30% increase in kindergarten level, and in the general secondary schools, it's about 10% inclusion of special needs children. So it is actually thanks to the update of the legal environment or laws, general education law, which would be providing better educational service to all. Secondly, so when we did equip them with the knowledge, and we issued text guidelines or textbook for them, that would be manuals that the teachers would use, and they would be the first to go kind of textbook for them, and they could assess themselves. That's the returning like feedback on that. And the best practices was we produced a booklet, and with the QR code, it is already there. And if you could actually look at it, because we did what we had before and what services we provided, or how we expanded our inclusion into the education service provision. And this is it's all the schools and kindergarten teachers have. The third, so inclusion education stakeholders. It's local government also. Also the parents and stakeholders at local level. What is the role of those stakeholders, and what kind of functions they have to carry on? And that was the advisory kind of guidelines and manuals, and we did a template for the planning, and that was the kind of a manuals we produced. Support centers we tested. Support centers is actually for those who are out of school, who have a home care. How do we we can provide with them education service? We are the second year of this test and pilot project. So the parents are quite quite happy with that, and they support him because children's homebound, and they could get the access to the education. And there are big opportunity for our children and for our. So they are very happy with this pilot project, and 5 special education schools, and with the financial funding, and 111 children already we are covering with this homebound children in through the support center. 4 kids already attending at the schools or at the support centers, but 13 teachers are in field. They are visiting teachers, the families that with disabled children. So model of the support center, the outcome of this pilot project is we actually defined the model for this support centers, and with the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Social Welfare and with the Ministry of Education jointly will do the decree that enables operation of such centers. From the beginning of the birth.
So
this is the special education kindergarten, and
sorry.
Wait.
Hello, sorry, Chulun. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can.
I did translate, but she is still keep speaking.
Chulun, please. We can unmute. Chulun, hello.
We muted her. We muted her.
No, but please unmute. Let's make sure that she can listen to us. Hello, Chulun. Chulun, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Chulun. Sorry, we are.
She can hear. Okay, you can speak.
So we really need to wrap up, and we need to give the floor now to the next participants, to the next speaker. Thank you for your overview of
I'm very happy to have this model of the supportive center. Okay. It is akin as like a sunlight.
We'll have more time to share more about the Mongolian experience once we go for the Q&A. But now, because of time, to make sure that we have time to listen to the other speakers we have, we'll move forward now with the from the head of the Inclusive Education Department of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. Nelia, the floor is yours. We'll try to keep it to 5 minutes. So please, thank you, Nelia.
Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in front of you and join this roundtable. It's a great opportunity for us to share our experience in implementing inclusive education in our country. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can see and hear you well. Yeah.
Дякую дуже. Ще з 2009 року, since 2009, following the ratification of UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, our state had undertaken to ensure inclusive education throughout the life of an individual from early age to reaching maturity and lifelong learning. And what we did to ensure inclusive education without any discrimination, we made sure our educational system is inclusive, discrimination-free, In particular, we made sure that it is accessible in the places of compact segment of individuals with disabilities. We make sure we implement values of inclusive education in our daily life, in the sphere of education. Inclusive education is based on specific regulation that we adopted that cover preschool level, primary school, middle and high school, and university education and vocational training. A new law on preschool education has been adopted in 2024 to provide for the conditions for the children and the students of preschool institutions to have access to modern services, inclusive services. We have developed the national strategy to create barrier-free educational environment in Ukraine for the period until 2030. We joined efforts with multiple stakeholders, such as parent organizations, educational institutions, and other stakeholders, civil society groups. This document, National Strategy on Creation of Barrier-Free Environment, provides for the implementation of new standards to make sure all individuals can have access to education. We addressed such aspects and such points as security, especially considering the wartime in Ukraine. We have the National Strategy of Inclusive Education for the period until 2029 and operational plan on its implementation in 2024-2026, developed and approved by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine as of 7th of June 2024, number 527. And the second important document that governs the development of educational system in Ukraine is the National Strategy on Barrier-Free Environment in Ukraine for the period until 2030, adopted by the resolution of the of Ukraine as of 14th of April 2021, number 366. We take into account individual needs of children, students. In every class, we have introduced the position of teacher's assistant, and the teacher's assistants help teachers to accommodate needs of students with disabilities and students with special needs. In our country, we transition from the medical model of understanding disability as concept to psychosocial model, and we have introduced new concepts such as sensory difficulties in interaction and also different restrictions and different degrees of difficulties, and the children regarding if we consider different needs that our children, our students have, we can establish 5 levels of support that children may need, levels from 1 to 5. If it is the first level, usually no additional resources are needed than teachers' assistants. However, if children have needs that are at the level from 2 to 5, it means that additional resources would be needed to provide for adaptation of the school infrastructure and the school environment. In addition to it, we have correctional services, services of correction that are funded by the state budget of Ukraine. We have created a network of resource centers and we have to make sure we are able to conduct evaluation of needs, educational needs of children and special needs of children. And that is exactly what the resource centers are doing. They establish the level of support a child needs. As of 1st of January 2025, we have created over 700 centers like this one at the level of communities, and such centers have all the necessary equipment according to the list adopted by the ministry, and all the centers are equipped with methodologies necessary to evaluate the needs of a child, and the methodologies are up to best international practices. We have over 400 professionals who are able to conduct such assessment based on international standards.
Nelia, sorry, just to say that we are over 5 minutes. If you can wrap up now in 1 minute, just to that we can move then to the next presentation. Thank you, Nelia.
Okay, I'm wrapping up. Funding is coming since 2017. We have the principle of funding that is coming from the state budget for inclusive education. In 2025, we had the first instance when we ensured allocation of funding from the state budget according to the 5 levels of support a child may need. So it is tailored support depending on the level of the needs. Considering all the changes that happened over the past years in terms of legal framework and its evolution, it evolved to provide better support to students, to children, and more parents, families of children with disabilities opt for inclusive educational system. In 2025, we have planned for a number of training sessions for educators to make sure our teachers receive ongoing training. Some professionals that have been trained back in 2014. It was the last time when we had a comprehensive program of training sessions. Following that time, some of the professionals changed their place of residence because of the wartime, and we have to do training sessions again. We have to improve infrastructure of educational institution. We have to provide barrier-free environment, and we have to make sure we fulfill all our objectives, which is especially challenging in the wartime condition. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Nelly. Thank you for providing us with an overview of the experience and the success cases from Ukraine. Now I'll hand over to Abdurov from Uzbekistan. Abdurov, the floor is yours. Again, I asked, please, let's keep to 5. Let's try to keep as much as possible to 5 minutes. We still have a second round, and we would like to have also time for some question and answers from the audience. Abdurov, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good day, dear participants of today's webinar. Thank you so much for inviting me for today's session. I would like to thank organizers. I will try to follow the timeline and provide some information about inclusive education in Uzbekistan and its development. Here in Uzbekistan, in order to provide all the rights and the opportunities for kids with disabilities. We have the legislation. One of them is the amendment to our constitution and the amendment of the law about education in Uzbekistan. In our country, in 2021 and 25, we adopted the inclusive education concept note, and based on all the principles of the inclusive education, starting from 2021, we opened more than 200 inclusive education classes in the schools, and the students started learning there as a pilot project. Today, more than 2,000, we have more than 10,000 medium schools or the public schools. In 24-25 academic years, I may say that throughout the country we have 950 schools who accommodate more than 1,800 kids with specific needs. For example, based on our legislation, each class each inclusive class should have one pedagogist who has a higher education on defectology, and these teachers work on correction curricula. They help and assist to study for these children, and these inclusive classes and their teachers also receive additional payment beside their basic wages. This is mostly this mostly helps for the students with disabilities and the teachers to be involved fully in the learning processes. Here also I would like to say that we developed the methodological guidance and the special programs not only for the teachers and the students and for parents as well, because parents also directly involved in this process in the helping to their children. Here I would like to say we developed 9 programs, curricula, and 5 guidance for the parents. Parents very well welcome this approach, and we right now have the numbers increasing in our classrooms. And I would like to say one of the schools in Tashkent city, by supporting the UNICEF office in Uzbekistan, was equipped with the latest devices, and in the future each we are planning to conduct such to equip with such devices all schools in all regions of Uzbekistan. Starting from January of 2025, we started launching inclusive groups in kindergartens, and today more than 200 kindergartens already opened inclusive classes and the groups. More than 600 disabled kids are studying there together with teachers, tutors, and in our country the inclusive education is very well developed and supported by the international organizations such as JICA and USAID, and also by the GP KIX, because you are the one of our partners, and if you are willing to cooperate with our country and with our ministry, we are always open for it. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and based following the timeline, I would stop here. Thank you so much. If you have any question, I am open to answer.
Sure. Abdullah, thank you so much. I know it's not easy to keep with time, and I also have been a speaker, and I know it's not easy, so it's also not easy to moderate, but we'll have more chances to ask you to join the Q&A. So now we'll move to the second roundtable with first thanks to these first 3 speakers, and now we will invite 3 new speakers. Well, we continue on the same topic, but we'll go into different angles. Now, my pleasure to invite Padma, manager of kindergarten, number 5 of UVS province in Mongolia. Then Alina, head of educational center, state institution, superhero school in Ukraine. And Elena Volkova, faculty member, Westminster International University in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Elena, it's a pleasure also to reconnect with you. So today's roundtable, second part of our roundtable will be on the inclusive practices in primary and secondary education. So we will be discussing inclusive teaching approaches and practices used in classrooms. We have here 2 guiding questions that I'll ask each one of the speakers to address within the time that is given to them. So guiding questions. The first one, what strategies or practices have you found effective in supporting diverse learning needs? The second question is, what challenges have you encountered in creating an inclusive children? So these are 2 interesting guiding questions, and I invite Padma to please open this second roundtable.
За бүгдээрээ сайн байцгаана уу? Энэ сайхан вебинарт одоо оролцуулсан туйлын их баяртай байна. Маш сайхан сонирхолтой мэдээлэл сонслоо.
Everyone, thank you very much for inviting me to this interesting event. Starting 2022, we have started accepting the people, children with special needs. In 2023, we received 22 children. In last year, we received 24 children, and this year we have 30 children. So we started working with them with a special training program, and we also started providing them special nutritious food that is necessary for the overall development of these children. And we are working very closely with the local health center, and we are receiving also children with autism. So, of course, to integrate those children into the normal kindergarten classroom, we have experienced some challenges. Our facility, the building itself, is a very old building, and we had some problems to facilitate the special needs of some kids. Also, nevertheless, we established a special cabinet for the special trainers whom we are inviting to our kindergarten. We also brought new books into our kindergarten library, because we receive children with autism. We need to we realized that we need to establish a special calming down room. So we found such a room, and we established it to make it a comfortable place for children when they're feeling anxiety. So, of course, to run such a kindergarten is requiring higher expenses than just ordinary kindergarten. And here we also need to search for additional sources of income. We also work closely with the parents of our children, and we received some special, narrow specialized specialists from Ulaanbaatar city, from the capital city of Mongolia, and they come to our kindergarten, and they provide training to us, and we also learn how to work with those special need kids. We constantly conduct a survey of our children's parents, and we ask them how their child is developing. And we, for example, also running a special medication provision service, so that we receive some kind of discount on those some medicines based on our negotiations with the drugstores
in the local area. We also have agreement with the local hairdressers who are given special guidance on how to cut hair of the kids with special needs. Also, especially with the parents of autistic children, we are working closely to provide them necessary information, and some special practices we undertook. So the special literature for the parents we provide to our parents of the children who are being received at our kindergarten. We
Okay,
have
so
this
I will
calming
take
down
over.
room.
Sorry,
We
teaching
realize
there.
this room is very
So there's
special.
a horse
We also
riding
use
training, and also there's a lot
we
of
use
pets
horses
and a
to
kind of a special room where
familiarize our
individual work
children with
is
the animals, especially
encouraged.
riding horses,
And STEM,
proved to be a very calming
science,
exercise.
technology, and
People,
education,
children
and
with
STEM, so
disabilities
introduce this
are
concept to the
developing very well.
children. So when they have a manual, when they have
They
also to
developing
by the
well in
schedule,
our
sleeping
local
them quite
kindergarten,
time,
and they
and
are
also
becoming
they
more.
learned to eat themselves and also go
Starting
to
to
the
why you
toilet,
keep
and they also
muting.
they start to adjust for them. It was a
Interpreter
challenges
speaking.
for them,
So
for the lessons
here
learned.
we
So
are.
we not have to start with them, with these training,
Thank
those
you very
kind
much.
of
That
life
was
skills.
all from my
Thank you
side.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much, Pagma. Thank you very much for being right on time. So wonderful. Pagma, so let's move now. I invite Halina to please share your experience. We look forward to it. Halina, please, the floor is yours.
The state institution Superhero School was established by a decision of the government of Ukraine on the initiative of the Office of the President of Ukraine, the Government of Ukraine, the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, with the support of the First Lady of Ukraine, and begin operating in October 2022. Slide 2. Superhero School ensures the right to education for children undergoing treatment or rehabilitation in health facilities aged 3 to 18. To your attention, the dynamic of the development of the state institution since its functioning. Each of the school educational center has preschool groups and elementary schools. The tutor from the state model has been introduced for students in grade 5 to 11. A practical psychologist works. Slide 3, please. One of the priorities of the national strategy for creating a barrier-free space in Ukraine until 2030 is scaling up the state institution Superhero School. Currently, there are 17 centers in Ukraine: Харків, Миколаїв, Дніпро, Кривий Ріг, Одеса, Житомир, Хмельницький, Рівне, Вінниця, Львів, Боярка, Київ, and Ахмадит. Last year alone, more than 83,000 lessons were held for 10,692 children. This year, with the funding from the Olena Zelenska Foundation, we plan to open at least 6 more new educational centers in Чернігів, Черкаси, Луцьк, Чернівці, Тернопіль, and Mukachеvo, as well to restore the educational center located at the National Children's Specialized Hospital Ahmadit of the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, where the history of the Superhero School began. Slide 4. On 8 July 2024, 2 classrooms of the educational space were destroyed by enemy missile. The team of the educational center will include 14 superhero teachers went to work the next day, adapting the hospital space to the educational process, because the little superheroes Назарчики, Дмитрики, Злата, Стефанія were wait for their teachers. Despite the war, we continue to work. Superhero School is a territory of opportunity. Slide 5, please. Today, we would like to show you the smile and emotion of superheroes from all educational center of Ukraine. Online from a hospital bed, in a classroom, a desk, and in front of a whiteboard, in the creative space of the superhero school, where hospital patients come every day to get knowledge, positive emotion, hugs, and good mood. Teachers have a list for plans for each lesson. In the classroom, when everything is fine. At the bedside, when there is a doctor recommendation. In the shelter, when the air raid alarm sound, and when all the children are gathered in one classroom. After all knowledge cures, please watch a film about our superheroes. Next slide, please, там відео.
Багато дітей змагаються з труднощами, з хворобами, які не знають жалю і ніколи не грають за правилами. В такому змаганні суперників не підбирають за категоріями, щоб зрівняти шанси. А після поразки не буває реваншу. А ще війна вдарила ракетами по самому дитинству. Багатьох залишила перед жахами долі наодинці. Та попри неприйняття, злість, біль, пігулки, крапельниці не можна втрачати безцінні миті дитинства.
Привіт! Я супергерой. І я супергерой. І я. Ми всі. Але ми не обирали цей шлях. За нас це зробила доля. Привіт! Я школа. Єдина, яка пройшла унікальний шлях становлення. Від дівчинки Аліни з ВІЛ-відділення до Ромчиків, Михайликів, Веронік, Агат, Денисів. І відкрила їм портали у щасливе дитинство попри випробування. Тут сміється дитинство, тут підкорюється Еверест, сперечаються, чи є зуби у равлика, тут катають на поні і розмовляють своєю мовою. Неприйняття, злість, біль, пігулки, крапельниця. Але паралельно урок, який стає маленьким життям. Перший успіх і плащ супергероя. Власна, велика перемога. Моя над хворобою. Завдяки школі, де не ставлять життя на паузу, де час летить, як комета у космосі, і залишає такий же живий слід, як і емоції карапузів у розмальованих стінах школи. А поряд вони, ті, хто навіть крізь маску посміхається так, що карапуз тягнеться з обіймами. Ті, хто поряд із цікавим досвідом, сучасним підручником, глобусом і своїми знаннями, навіть у найболючішу мить дитини. Вони – супервчителі, які залишають всі свої переживання. Не ці емоції за класом, за школою, за лікарнею. Вони знають більше потаємних секретів супергероїв, ніж їх батьки. Вони разом із карапузами танцюють тік-ток. Вони їх тримають за руку в момент болю і страху. І тоді цей портал дійсно супергеройський, бо всі тут супергерої. І за розмальованими лікарняними стінами дзвінко буде сміятись щасливе дитинство, допоки школа супергероїв відкриватиме портали у світ неймовірної сили і незламності.
Thank you, Alina. Alina, you are on mute. Now, we really need to wrap up now, but if you want to say something just to conclude, but we really need to wrap up now. And it was wonderful to see the video that really shows these stories of superhero children, but also superhero families, for sure. It should not be easy. And all of those that are superheroes that work in this initiative. But Alina, do you want to say something just to conclude before we hand over to the next speaker?
We are proud of our superheroes. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Thank you. And it was our pleasure and our honor to have you here today. And show us this is much more than just a project. These are lives, and that's so it was powerful, the message that you sent to us all, and all of us that are parents as well. We cannot imagine what it is for families that face these challenges. So we move forward with Elena. Elena, now the floor is yours. We ask you to go for 5 minutes, as much as possible. Let's keep that, Elena.
Hello, colleagues. Yes, hello. Can we check the sound first so that everything is all good?
Is doing very well. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, internet in Uzbekistan is giving us a little bit of miracles, because all Uzbekistan team we now disappeared from the screen for 5 minutes, but now we are back. I am going to talk from a slightly different perspective than it was announced, because I come from teacher education, and I will be talking from the bottom of my heart of someone who deals with teachers. And I want to refer back to what Asadullah was talking about the importance of teachers as agents of change, and also to Abdur Rauf, the representative of our ministry, who specified that indeed the teachers are being equipped with understandings and knowledge in different training programs. My example is my personal experience. I am delivering a module on introduction to inclusive education, and I have several things to share, and they are my illusions, or expectations, or assumptions, or something that surprised me a lot. And there are 3 things on my agenda, very quick ones.
Elena, sorry. I ask you to please choose the English channel.
Okay.
Because I think you are without that location. It eases the work of the interpretation.
Right. Okay.
So, okay.
Now I did it. Can someone check that everything is fine technologically?
Fine. I think now it should be fine.
Veronica, yes, I see your finger.
Thank you.
So there are 3 illusions, 3 expectations, and 3 assumptions that a teacher educator may have entering the training room with teachers who are preparing to implement inclusive education. The first one that I had is my understanding that was completely wrong, that everybody, we all teachers, share the same vision and understanding of inclusive practices and inclusive education. And there are so many definitions, and there are so many perspectives and dimensions of inclusive education that this deserves looking at and exploring in depth. And having said this, the example is that there are still so many contexts all over the world that look at the disability and special educational needs when there is a tendency of going away from the terminologies that is now considered a euphemism, because special educational needs sets the paradigm of segregation rather than inclusion, and the whole history behind the movement from the terminology that was used in the past and that is used now to share the common vision and understanding and philosophy of inclusive education is very important. So what I found out for myself is that neurodiversity as the new term is very, very unknown, and we put a lot of efforts together with a group of students to explore that, to put it in a framework so that it becomes our common language. So first illusion, don't assume that everybody understands inclusive education exactly the way that you do it as an educator. The second one, we are all here and we truly believe in inclusive education, but we need to understand and appreciate that not everybody would subscribe to this. and specifically teachers in the classrooms on the ground. We think that the ratified decrees and conventions and legislation established in the country would pave the green light for inclusive education. No, that's not the case. And there will be so many objections from the teachers on the ground, from the schools, that we have to be prepared of. And we have to know how to address this, because there will be objectives like things like special teachers should be hired and should be trained to implement inclusive practices, or teachers would not have enough time and enough skills to differentiate the classroom instructions. So if you are in teacher education, you have to be prepared to address and appeal to all these questions. And my third illusion would be about the understanding of inclusive education in terms of skills. So many of my students would expect that coming to teacher education and teacher training, they would equip a set of skills or knowledge of assistive technology, how to operate an inclusive classroom. But this is not the case, because inclusive education do not start with techniques. It starts with the mindset. So if this is the entry point into educating the teachers in schools, universities, elsewhere, that would be the right avenue to adopt. So these are the three things that I wanted to share with the audience. And this is my humble experience, but I think this may be helpful if you consider teacher training in inclusive education. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Elena, thank you very much. Right on time, 5 minutes. So now we have, we are a bit 15, almost 15 minutes over time of the 2 hours webinar. There's a lot to share. There's a lot that is happening, and there's a lot that is in need for discussion and for more knowledge exchange. So now I hand over to Julia. She will either, I think we have two options, either read the questions you have so far, and we invite the speakers to address them post-event because we are over time, or choose out of the questions you have a couple and give the chance to this roundtable, second roundtable speakers to address them. So over to you, Julie, in terms of how we can navigate that the rest of the time we have for the events.
Thank you very much, José Luis. I would recommend, given the time that we have, I might be summarize the comments we had so far in the chat to wrap up the overall session we've got. So I think there were lots of discussion and lots of respect and lots of recognition of the work that has been done in all the countries. We can see what a tremendous work was made in each of the countries and how much effort from all sides is needed to get it done, to have quality inclusive education, and that even if policies are in place and we have developments here, as Yelena, I think Yelena did a fantastic also last word to say, okay, still there's lots of need to have it practice, have it like put in place in practice. I think we saw fantastic examples from the superhero schools, how it can be done even under the circumstances of war. We saw also contributions from preschool education from Mongolia and also from Kyrgyzstan. So thank you to everyone. I think there was lots of discussion also on the specifics of curricula. There was lots of discussion on the specific, how many teachers, what is the number of teachers, what is the number of students, how is the ratio, how can we find this specific number that students that they have like this special needs that need to be addressed, and how many educators needs to be in place. So this is definitely, I think, a discussion we can continue, but also on the specifics of the curricula and teaching and learning materials, as well as the professional competencies teachers need. So I would say for now, thank you very much for sharing all your resources. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. We know you're all on the forefront of educational developments in your country. I would like to encourage also for all the speakers to connect, to create a network, to have a meaningful exchange, because you all work in the same field with same success stories, but also maybe same challenges. And I would encourage to share to take a look at each other and to connect, and we can be supportive also of that. So thank you very much again. I would wrap up and at this point now, and see you in the future. Please follow us on all the social channels on our website. And also for us, it is important to see what can we improve. How did you like the session? So please also participate in our post-event survey. For us, it's important to understand how we can to have a great experience of knowledge sharing and bringing all the national stakeholders together. Thank you very much again. And I hope to see everyone in the future.
Thank you.